Wagwan everyone, Sanjay Uchiha here, and welcome back to the channel. And as you can tell by me capturing the screen here, we have a totally different setup than usually. Well, partially. Today we'll be tackling our initial expectations for chapter 55 and beyond, outside of the recent, Boruto potential video I did. But what makes today's video a bit more interesting, to say the least, we have a guest here, a very, I'd say, he's pretty cool. He's from London, England. So welcome, call me Betty, to the channel. Wagwan, man, what's up?
Hey, thank you. Very, very happy to be here. Hello, everyone. And yeah, man, excited to have a chat with you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Definitely. I know guys, it's not the best setup in terms of capturing our video screens and all that, but I'll definitely leave a link to his channel in the description below. He's recently started his channel. He's doing anime and manga. He's covering much more series than I am, so definitely check him out. But yeah, man, so Boruto chapter 54, that was quite a chapter, to say the least.
It was a crazy chapter, I mean, I loved it because I felt like it was pure hype all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, chapter 53, right, Sasuke losing his Rinnegan, so I think there was a lot of like, what's gonna go on here? What's happening, right? So
yeah,
definitely, yeah. Seeing Momoshiki as well, right?
Yo, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, the chapter didn't. It didn't go like how I was expecting, but I mean, I say that in the best way possible.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Okay. I mean, I was wondering whether they'd sort of show more of Naruto, right? Because obviously,
yeah,
the mode was such a big thing, and they kind of did end off with that too on what was going to happen with him, and we did obviously get a little bit. It wasn't like, of course, there wasn't really much progression, but
yeah,
I as a Naruto fan, obviously we've grown up with him, and he's kind of still our main character, right?
True.
I was like, God, what's going to happen with him? Like, what's going on? But Borushiki, man.
Yo, as you said in your review, because I ended up watching your review as well, like his drip, the style, like for real. Like I wasn't thinking about it before, but when you mentioned, I was like, yo, a real thing. It's true. He has a bit of that drip.
I don't know what it is. I feel like with this like series, Boruto, they've really started to focus on the character attires, the way they learn, the way they present themselves. And Boruto, especially when it gets taken over by Momoshiki, just things happen, man. It's like his jacket's got like wind blowing against it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like an extra layer of coolness, man. But I loved it. I loved it.
Trust me.
He's definitely becoming like a really cool character, isn't he? Like the whole idea of Borushiki and what he is. Like, I think it's a little bit different to what we've seen in that anime in the past, but I think in terms of where it's going to go, it's definitely quite exciting. So I'm just curious what's going to happen between this famous, fabled first scene that we've seen in the manga and anime between Kawaki and Boruto. Like, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get you. Yeah. But backtracking to what you said in terms of not getting a lot of Naruto in the chapter, which is one thing I actually predicted as well. But I mean, going into chapter 55, I feel like that's going to be the reverse. Naruto is going to be, I feel at least, is going to be a big focus in chapter 55, and for the most part, a lot of fallouts, politically speaking, I feel, when it comes on to everything that happened in this fight against Isshiki and Momoshiki.
I think you're right, because currently, I guess the Hokage is kind of out of action, right? So obviously, our main characters will have to find a way to get back, and I don't know how that's even going to happen, because Boruto would have to use the karma again, really, to be able to leave, right? So there might be actually a bit of it might take some time for them to get back. So it might be a case of Shikamaru having to perhaps run the day-to-days for the village. I mean, I imagine if, for example, they are going to be stuck in this dimension, it won't be for 2-3 chapters.
I think know that.
Yeah, but I think they're definitely going to have to deal with that first. And you're right, with the Hokage out of action, there's definitely going to be fallout. Potentially even Hokage is getting involved, right? Because Borushiki is a threat.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm gonna disagree with you in terms of, even though it would be interesting to see, what characters like Shikamaru or probably they bring back Kakashi would do with them being stuck in another dimension for a while. But similarly to the end of the Boro fight, I'm actually predicting chapter 55 to actually start with them already back. Because, I mean, it might be a few hours to wait until Boruto kind of recovers, but I think they'll be more or less back in Konoha. Um, but on the topic of
Okay.
the other Kage, though, given the alliance that the five great nations have, like, they'll definitely be caught up to speed when it comes on to everything that happened recently, to say the least.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel our initial fallout in terms of, how do we handle Boruto going forward is actually going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely can see some internal conflict between that because of course, you've got Gara on the Hokage side of things. He's obviously a friend of the village. And I
Yeah.
think, he probably saw the whole notion of we should try and help Boruto protect him. But then when you look at the other Hokages, like particularly, Darui, for instance, I feel like there'd be a little bit more cutthroat, to say the
Yeah.
least, where you could potentially see conflict between all of those different nations. But it's interesting, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still the Hokage's son. So how much can these Kages interfere, right? Which is why I'm a bit unsure about in terms of if there is going to be fallout, who's going to be the person essentially who plays that card of okay, we need to do something about Boruto, whether it's lock him up or take him away or kill him, right? Who would make that suggestion?
Yeah, that's my question too, because all right, so for example, I'm subscribed to Naruto Explain and I watch a lot of his videos covering a lot of the novels, right? But
Yeah,
um like the way the other Kage are portrayed in like the manga and the anime, right? They don't seem like, like back in the day when you had like Onoki and Gara and the previous set of Kage that seemed like they would disagree on a lot of things. Like the way it's portrayed in the manga and the anime up to date, it feels like it would be such a disconnect to see the Kage say, "Oh, let's just kill Boruto." It would seem odd based on how they've been portrayed. So you're right to ask who would really suggest killing Boruto, really.
I think it will come into conversation though. I think you're right. I think the Kages kind of need to discuss this, right? And
Yeah,
and I think that I think Kishimoto will tie it back to the Kages, you're right, because also they were the ones involved with the Momoshiki fight. So when it comes to there being a discussion, they're going to be really the people who should be involved. The most higher ranking, especially when it comes to it being a global event, a global
yeah,
issue. So yeah, I expect there to be fallout. My kind of prediction from where this could potentially go is, I agree with you, and there'd been a lot of discussion about, something needing to be done with Boruto. And you've kind of alluded to it in your videos as well, about Boruto going rogue, right?
yeah, quote
And
unquote.
yeah, quite so quite exactly. I definitely see that happening.
Yeah,
I think it'll be obviously more of a mental, like internal conflict that he's sort of going through, in a sense that, of course, he understands he's a danger to people, right?
yeah.
Especially having just recently stabbed out Sasuke's Rinnegan. So, you know, he's
Yo.
obviously he's going to come back and like he's going to gain consciousness and obviously see the downfall, see Naruto in his current state, see Sasuke in his current state,
Yeah,
and Kawaki without. I think that's really going to get to him. And then once he starts to understand how close he is to really being overtaken by Momoshiki, I think there's a chance that he'll just desert the village and go in his own way.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I totally agree. But I was thinking like the middle ground of that between things on a political level and things on like a character level where Boruto thinks he's gonna be a danger to everybody around him. I'd love to see like a Boruto Himawari moment, like say before he leaves the village. That would be very interesting, very touching, I feel.
Yeah.
Um
100%.
yeah, but I think the middle ground to all of this, and this is taking a page out of Black Clover, to say the least, but um, I feel Sasuke is gonna make an argument to actually take Boruto with him outside the village to probably investigate, probably in conjunction with Amado, maybe, to investigate a way to
Hmm.
remove Momoshiki's consciousness outside of it. So it would be kind of like a, I would want to say on a more cutthroat level, like the other Kage would want to either kill or lock up Boruto, but
Yeah.
having him go with Sasuke could double as his, I guess, prison time while they try to investigate a way to actually remove Momoshiki's consciousness from the Karma Seal. I think that's a similar to something that happened in Black Clover with their main character as well. So I could see something like that happening as well.
I actually that's a very valid point. Actually, that makes sense. Yeah, because in theory, Sasuke would, I guess, be the interim Hokage, right? So he'd be that person really in that conversation to be able to make a suggestion like that. And I think you're right. I don't think Sasuke would want Boruto, of course, to be dead or to be taken in any way. So I can't expect him to be taken. It would almost actually be reminiscent of Jiraiya training Naruto, right? When in part one, obviously they go away, and it was that whole they've gone for almost 150 episodes, but they're training during that whole time.
Yeah.
And actually, Sasuke is kind of like the Jiraiya of Boruto right now, isn't it? So for them to do that would kind of link back to Naruto, which we know that they like doing anyways. So
Yeah.
it would make in my theory video, I actually spoke how it would be interesting to see Kashin Koji come out of the woodworks and have some involvement here in some way.
I'm counting on it.
I
I'm
don't know
counting
how.
on it.
I don't know how it would work. I mean, when I initially theorized Boruto deserting, I thought if he were to desert on his own, that could be potentially an opportunity for Kashin Koji to approach him, just because he's obviously been, said himself in a chapter that Boruto and Kawaki would be very important to taking down Otsutsuki. So I feel like if there was still threats of Otsutsuki, or we know that there's still a threat of the Tentales, then Kashin Koji might think, okay, plan B, let me
Yeah.
go to someone with a
But
but there, I don't know if that would happen.
that, I mean, honestly, as I was replying to somebody earlier in my Discord, like literally at this point, anything could happen. But like going forward, though, as you mentioned, the Otsutsuki and Tentails, there's two major points that I want to talk about in universe and outside universe, like real world here. One, do you feel like chapter 55, even though the manga is, as Naruto explained would say, it is kind of like a snapshot, kind of like I wouldn't want to say a rushed version of the story, but kind of like a snapshot of what's going to happen, and the anime kind of fleshes it out. But you think chapter 55 is going to plant the seeds for the story to be longer than it originally planned? Because Ikemoto said a few years back that they wanted it to be
Ah,
28 volumes. And if we're taking a lot of the
right.
stuff from like the novels and stuff into consideration, with Naruto potentially not being in power anymore, a lot of the persons in government who are against Naruto could rise up, who could in turn be Kara members as well. So it kind of makes me
Mm.
wonder, should the manga be longer, and will chapter 55 feature a lot of these elements, like just there's those initial breadcrumbs to say, okay, these are plot points that could really develop into arcs. That, and I guess in universe is a matter of Code and the Tentales. What are their next move? Because Ishiki's dead. So
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I think you're right. I mean, let's be real. We know that the anime does definitely expand, especially when we have an opportunity to do so, right? So as soon as they do get an opportunity to milk a little plot point, they will.
yeah.
Which obviously, well, recently as well. So no complaints on that front. But I think you're right. We should, and I can expect actually that there will be some seeds there. I think you're right because in terms of the Kara and their introduction, they were sort of introduced as having loads of ties and connections to the governments and feudal lords and different sort of shinobi villages out there. So you know we also know from those different bits of information that was released that there were people against Naruto who were obviously Kara outers and so on. So this would create an opportunity for the anime to really sort of explore that further.
Yeah.
And then moving on from that, just in terms of what's been going on in the village, I think there's going to be more explorations of that as well. I think we've probably skipped through a lot of moments in these most recent chapters that
Yeah.
probably will get explored in the anime. For
Yeah.
example, Ishiki's arrival, right?
I just want
Even
them to show
Kawaki being
Ishiki drinking some wine or something. That is the highlight of Ishiki's character for me. Just drink some wine and just the style on these people. You see me? But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Oh no! You're right, man. Drinking some wine with manners and everything. Like he's honestly the most well-behaved villain I've ever seen in my life. Like one of my favorite scenes, him coming into Naruto's house and being like, "Sorry for like the, shutting my shoes off."
Yeah, it was ridiculous, bro. Honestly, trust me.
I'm
Trust me.
not gonna
Trust me.
lie. It does upset me that Ishiki has sort of quote unquote been defeated. And it was very interesting to see Momoshiki say, "Yeah, his soul's completely gone, completely, destroyed." Especially when again we've seen that Kawaki does have this karma. So I wonder if we'll get more development around that. Kawaki, for instance, being that 80%, and what that means for him now. Is he human or is he Otsutsuki? Can he use Otsutsuki abilities? Will we see that in chapter 55, for instance?
I mean, that's a good question. I was kind of alluding to that with Boruto in my latest video before this one, of course, in terms of Boruto's new potential. But I actually have a discussion topic coming up regarding that in terms of linking Kawaki to, to the Kawaki that we see in the first chapter / first episode in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on I guess Boruto and Kawaki at the moment? Because initially when obviously we were introduced to the story, right? We've always had this idea that Kawaki was kind of like the villain, but
Yeah.
more and more as these chapters develop, we start to see Kawaki wants to be good. Like he really wants to be, the best that he can be. He idealizes Naruto, like that's his father figure, and I'm struggling to see a downfall towards villainy from him.
Yeah, like
so
I've been saying it for a few months myself as well, and it's only logical to think that because it's like as we get more and more of these chapters and you hear these lines of dialogue from Kawaki, it's hard to really imagine him becoming outright evil, like say like a Sasuke in the five Kage something back in the day, and it's like you wonder with chapter 55 going forward, like what's his next move going to be given what's happened to Naruto and Boruto recently. And honestly, I feel I see Kawaki more that anti-hero kind of vibe. I've kind of dissected, sliced apart that initial conversation with future Boruto and Kawaki, and to me, right, especially with what we've gotten now, it highly indicates to me that Kawaki is not evil. He might not even be the person that's responsible for the destruction of the village per se, or at least directly. But in terms of like your initial question, in terms of the dynamic between Kawaki and Boruto, like I like it. I'm tempted to actually reread from chapters 25 back until chapter 40 at least. So I can at least get the big picture of their dynamic so far in one big go, just to kind of refresh myself to get a better opinion on what I feel about their dynamic now. But I like it. The whole bro dynamic is good. Of course, a lot of persons compare it to Naruto and Sasuke, but obviously it's more. I think it's more refreshing in a sense because once that split does, it's like there's more time spent. We get more screen time between them compared to say Naruto and Sasuke, who they had a rivalry. We had an understanding of that. They had decent screen time, but I don't think it's on such an emotional level like how Kawaki and Boruto currently have.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think actually Naruto's probably played a big factor in that, right? In being that father figure that's kind of been almost like the Naruto bridge, right? Pun intended.
Alright, that was a damn good one. Damn good one. Honestly.
But he's definitely played that sort of role, hasn't he? Where he's been able to bring these guys together. I mean, initially when they were first introduced, I think back to that scene when Naruto is in the toilet and they're having a fight just outside the toilet, and Naruto is just like shadow clone. But it like a parent with their kids, right, and seeing their kids fight over, a game or just being able to go out or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's little moments that we don't really get in Naruto, right, in the original Naruto, where obviously Sasuke was there. The fact that we're getting these little moments in Boruto is really what's adding to that relationship that we're seeing, that growth between Boruto and Kawaki, and also the vase, right? And
Yeah.
I think obviously with Kishimoto's return and his use of flashbacks, we know he loves flashbacks.
Yeah, of
He,
course.
he
Yeah.
played very 54. I mean, it worked. In all fairness, it did work quite well. It just really making you feel, that brotherly connection between Boruto and Kawaki. So I do hope to see more of that going forward, and I guess more as well as we get into chapter 55 and beyond.
Yeah.
What I also anticipate, and I don't know if you agree with me here, is that obviously Kawaki's played a big role in taking out Isshiki, right, and helping the guys out too. So is there a chance that Kawaki could come back to the Hidden Leaf as a hero?
I don't see why not. He'll definitely score some points with Shikamaru, who we know hasn't had the best track record of trusting him. So I think that, but that will still, I feel that will definitely be a talking point in those initial five Kage meeting going forward with chapter 55, more than likely. But I think
Yeah.
one thing to kind of look forward to as well is potentially how to handle whatever is happening to Naruto. More than likely, it's going to serve as the breaking point, or the point of disagreement between the five Kage, Boruto and his decisions going forward, Kawaki, and more likely will be the I guess the severing point between Kawaki and Boruto's relationship, more than likely.
Yeah, and then I guess another thing I also hadn't really thought about was how Naruto was almost like the glue between all of these Kages, right? He
Exactly.
was the one that sort of bridged that piece, and I guess the allied shinobi force and everything else always enforced by the Hidden Leaf and Shikamaru, who also played a big part in that as well. So with Naruto now being gone, there's a lot to discuss, isn't there? Even with
Yeah.
Amado being, now a member of the Hidden Leaf, I feel like that's something they have to discuss between the five Kage too, right? Because he was a member of Kara. He obviously helped Jiken become Isshiki and obviously have all of these connections within government. So I think even Amado and his position in the Hidden Leaf is going to be brought into question.
Yeah,
And also
definitely.
his role will be interesting too, right? So what is he going to do following on from this? Is he going to join Katasuke and join a scientific division, or is he going to, I don't know, try and create more cloning technology? Like, what's going to happen with
That's
it?
a very good question still. And I mean, it also depends on what his agenda, what his goals are, his long-term goals, because obviously even though Kodachi at the time and now Kishimoto wants to make it seem like, Amado betrayed Kosh and Koji, I just don't feel that bad blood between them. So I'm
Mm.
imagining at some point Amado is going to work with Katasuke. He'll probably still have, who knows, secret meetings with Kosh and Koji. And given the whole narrative where, Kawaki feels powerless without karma, I feel we'll see a dynamic between Amado and Kawaki going forward. And just to kind of give a little preview of what the discussion that I hinted at that I have planned for the coming week is that my idea is that essentially the Kawaki that we see in the future with the karma, I'm thinking Amado is going to find a way to like build like an artificial karma that allows Kawaki to bring out the power of his Otsutsuki DNA, essentially, without the consciousness of Isshiki. That's my grand idea.
Right, that's interesting actually. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I mean, he has that DNA, right? So he might as well make use of it. And I think they will try and find ways to enhance it or train him in sort of using those capabilities.
yeah,
I hope he have some of those skills. I mean, he should do. It's 80%, right?
yeah,
But I hope he does. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. But even Boruto itself now, I feel like he's also at that tipping point because he's at that 80%. They're all very very close.
yeah,
You know, Otsutsuki. Amado, I think there's more to definitely see from him, and of course, obviously, his main aim was to get rid of Ishiki, but is there also a point where he looks at Boruto and he's like, okay, well, you've also got a karma, something needs to be done about you, like
yeah.
he done with. He's definitely a smart guy, and he's definitely conniving too. So I'm almost anti Amado just because I don't really trust.
Yeah, I hear a lot of
The way,
people saying that, even up to
you know what,
Condemned
like the
World. Yeah,
trust me, man. And like even Shikanai being captured to begin with, and him being like, "Oh, I was just lying. It was a fake bot." Like it's just a lot of manipulation and cloudiness around Mado. So I
yeah,
wouldn't be surprised if there's a twist coming up with him, and like you said, potentially meeting Kashin
yeah.
Koji or even Delta, who are still a factor as well, right? So yeah, it's exciting times, right?
Exciting times. But to round out this part of the video, because guys will be having, if you made it to this this part of the video, because it's been what, 26 minutes, I will be having a part
Whoa.
2 on Betty's channel, so definitely look out for that. But I wanted to end with this. Could the Tentales and Delta, like, do you think we'll see them in chapter 55? And what could Kichi really set up for them going forward?
That's a good question. So, I actually did speak a little bit about this in my theories and predictions video, and basically, my thought was Delta being like a big factor in this. Like, she isn't dead; she's only been switched off, right? In theory.
Yeah,
So, if we take out that Code is still out there, and obviously he's meant to be looking after the Tentacles. If he senses something is wrong, returns to the hideout, he's gonna find Delta on the floor, right? And who's to say that he doesn't know how to turn her on? And,
no pun intended.
I realized as soon as I said it. But if that happens, there's a chance that Delta will wake up and she'll obviously be like, Amado, Kashin Koji, traitors, and Code potentially comes into action from that. So
Yeah,
whether they'll go straight to beef or whether they'll go hunting for Kashin Koji, who knows? But I think they will definitely think, okay, where is Ishiki and where is Amado? And they'll start to investigate for sure. So it might not be chapter 55, but it'll be a plot point for sure going forward.
yeah. This is why I tell persons, like, in terms of their expectations for the time skip, I just don't see it happening until chapter 57, 58, because there's still quite a bit to set up for said time skip.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like we still have to see Kashin Koji, right? And I feel
Exactly.
like there needs to be some form of payoff for him being Dry's clone as well. Whether
Yeah.
it's Naruto having some form of meeting with Kashin Koji or him even passing on a message. Something needs to happen where there needs to be a reveal of some sort, right? So
Yeah.
I think that would happen pre-time skip, really, right? It makes sense for it to. So I agree with you. I don't think we'll be going into a time skip for the next couple of chapters for sure. And then, like you said, in terms of the politics and everything, the downfall, the aftermath
Yeah.
of the actual fight, we're for sure going to be seeing a lot around that. Also, you've got to remember the Hidden Leaf Village did get attacked, so that in itself is massive news, right?
Massive big
So,
news.
news, yeah, exactly.
There's
So we just haven't seen it as readers, essentially, it being spoken about between other nations, but we can expect that this news is being shared around. So I anticipate that the Kagis are going to come into to play. They're probably going to go into action in the next couple of chapters. I hope it would be the next one, because it would be nice to, like you said, them not waste any time, go straight to the village, and we're already dealing with the aftermath. We're dealing with Naruto being potentially in hospital, which I want to speak to you about, by the way. What do you think is going on with Naruto? But yeah, potentially him being in hospital, and of course, obviously, the aftermath of
Um,
everything else.
well, obviously he's not dead yet, obviously, because Kishi would make a bigger deal. But I think, and this is the first case of, well, I think Kurama's dead. That's the first thing. I think Kurama's dead, and then this will be the first case of your teal beast dying within you and not necessarily extracted. So I think that's definitely messing with his chakra system for the most part, and probably a form of chakra poisoning. I don't want to make it like a carbon copy of this whole chakra illness I hear in the novels, but that seems like the most likely thing. And then of course that would link back up to what I'm sure everybody's theorizing now, that Kawaki is. I've said it even last year myself. That Kawaki is going to somehow send Naruto to either another dimension or somewhere else to get help or slow down the process of his condition until they figure something out to save him.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about the idea of potentially going to another dimension, but could it be? This is just a random. This just came to mind, sort of theory thought, right?
Yeah.
But could Tentales play a part in this, in the sense that maybe Kawaki, because he's connected to Isshiki, and he can obviously use his abilities, senses the Tentales dimension, and perhaps come to the idea of, oh, well, if Kurama's gone, how about I send Naruto to the Tentales, and in some way tries to extract energy from the Tentales and give it to Naruto, similar to how Shigen was visiting the dimension and absorbing the chakra for himself, if that makes sense. So it's almost like he's helping Naruto, and that's what he means when he's speaking to Boruto, where I'll send you to where I said the seventh, because he also wants to help Boruto potentially, around the whole Borushiki. This is just me going from the dose. The holes I know.
No pressure, man. No pressure. I mean, I could see something like that happening using Tentail's chakra, but at this point, you would still have to find a way. Because the big thing I kind of took away from chapter 54 is that even though he's 80% Otsutsuki, it doesn't mean he can automatically just use Ishiki's abilities or access his power. So that's where like my next theory comes in with the artificial karma. And probably when Amado does build that, that's the time when probably that side of your theory could come into play. Either that or they somehow get into conflict with Code and we get dragged to that dimension somehow.
Yeah, but then I wonder who would fight Code, because we've lost our powerhouses, right? Sasuke with no Rinnegan can't even enter that dimension anymore. So he's knocking on the door.
Well,
but it's interesting. Who, right?
Yeah, definitely interesting to say the least. But I'm gonna end this for here, and then we'll definitely continue this discussion on your channel, because we're going on 33 minutes now. Probably outside of live streaming, this might be my longest video in a while, but I'm definitely enjoying it. So guys, again, if you're enjoying these initial discussions on the upcoming chapter, the Boruto manga, chapter 55, let me know. Let me know your expectations, your predictions, your theories, and just your overall thoughts on chapter 54 as well. Of course, definitely check out Betty, Call Me Betty, link in the description, because we will be doing a part 2 to this discussion on his channel. I don't know if he wants it to be as long, but I'm up for anything. So yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, any last words, man, before we go?
Thank you very much for tuning in. And yeah, check out part 2. There's going to be a lot more being discussed on that. And then obviously, thank you for having me as well.
Yeah, definitely, man. No problem. All right, guys, be sure to, if you made it this far into the video, be sure to subscribe. We're on our way to 20,000 subs, hopefully by the end of 2021, hopefully. And just respect for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next Boruto video.
Peace.